Hi, I'm Leah Louise from Inspired Quilting by Leah Louise. Welcome to my sewing room, which today is a bit of a fat quarter frenzy. They're stacked everywhere. But I was able to harness this pretty batik bundle right here, and I've already cut it into charm packs, so we're good to go. We're ready to start a new quilt. It's a 9-patch that I think you're going to love. But first, I have a big favor to ask. Would you please hit that subscribe button down below if you like my videos? That would be a big help to me. I'd appreciate it. And if you really like today's video, how about a thumbs up? That'll just let other quilters know that we're enjoying some quilting experience here and some good information, and that'll go a long way to help me. I appreciate that. But now we need to move on to quilting. There's a 9-patch batik quilt here that we're going to get started on, and I want to show it to you right now. Check out these beautiful fabrics. These are batiks from Beyond the Reef, and I bought 18 different fat quarters, and I've made one quilt already, and now I'm doing the second variation of the same pattern. We're going to be working with a 9-patch block. This is a 9-patch, and you can see how it's laid out. So what I've done is I've laid out my charm squares. This quilt is going to require 2 charm packs for a total of, you're actually only going to use 81 of your charms, but it'll give you 84, which is nice because you have a couple to fuss with. So I group them into 5 focals, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the 5th one being the contrast, because if you just go predominantly one color, it gets a little boring, but add an extra contrast in there and it really steps it up. With this 9-patch block, you see that I've gone ahead and chain stitch. Once I get these 2 done, the block is going to be ready. Now, one of the things I like to do on my patterns is create a design page. So the quilt pattern is the quilt pattern, gives you the information. It's a color picture, but it's also nice to have it in grayscale, because then you can go in and look at how you want to do your color placements. I know my centers are going to be blue. There'll also be some navy, but just for purpose of general design, I use that and I highlight those centers. So the way this block is going to go, if you see this, it's right here, that little square right there. See that with the yellow center? And then we're going to turn it into quadrants. So we're going to make one really large square out of this. And that's how you're going to get the center design. The other quilt that I made in the lap size was more like this, where everything is sort of topsy-turvy, which is fun and it came out nice. But my favorite part about this particular block, the 9-patch, is that it's asymmetrical. It's not like we have a dark cornerstone in the middle. We have the dark, then we have the light, and we have a contrast. And so as I turn that block, it's going to add a lot of interest to the quilt. And that's really important. The other thing I want to show you, you end up with 2 strips, one that's about 3.5 and one that's about 2.5. And those you set aside for another project, or if, like me, you like a particular color and there weren't quite enough in here, you say, you know, I'm going to grab some of these pieces and sew them together. So check this out. So I took this one and this one together, and I kind of thought, well, how am I going to do this? Because when you're matching plaids, if you've ever sewn clothing, matching plaids isn't an easy thing to do. But if, as you're lining it up, you can find some stripes along the way, especially predominant ones. See how this single stripe and these 3 work together? And then add some colors that blend across the seam. This has some blue across. This has some of that dark purpley blue. And if you put these together in the quilt, I know you can see that line now, but when you sew it, you won't be able to. And I'm going to surprise you and tell you this is the same. Look at that. You can't tell, but yet, yep, there's the seam. What I did is I took 2 of my pieces, a wide and a narrow. I cut it to 10 inches, sewed them together. I sew it to the narrower seam, or to the narrower width of fabric. That way you're not going to get a heavy piece down the middle. Do not put your seam smack dab in the middle unless you absolutely have to. Things in the middle get noticed. things on the outer peripheral tend to blend in better. So that's the way I like to do it. So when you get these strips, don't just think you can't use them. You can make extra charms, and it's okay to have a seam in here. We're quilting. Quilting is about patchwork. It's about piecing, putting small things together to make them big and beautiful. And that's exactly where we're going here. So you see how I have it laid out? I'm going to go ahead and make the rest of these in exactly this same manner. These 9-patch blocks turned out wonderfully. They all have a great assortment of colors and prints and different graphics. I think this quilt is going to be wonderful. So the next step is going to be laying out these 9 patches. So because we have 9 blocks, it's going to be 3 blocks by 3. So that's going to be the next step, is laying this out into a design that we like. And here's a picture of the finished baby quilt. It came out adorable. It measures about 40 inches square, and again, there are 9 by 9 charm squares, which is 81 squares total. So it's a lot of fun. It's a great quilt to make, and I hope you enjoy it. And don't forget, the lap size quilt is included too. So have fun quilting.